Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, government expects significant reduction in Ghana's debt stock when it signs debt restructuring agreement with external creditors before the end of this year. Also coming up, ECOWAS Regional Electricity Regulatory Authority announces new framework to transform West African electricity market. We'll hear from the chairman of ERERA, Laurent Rodrigue Tosu.
Framework to parts of the electricity market. For example, if you want to be connected to the grid, you should be aware about all the content of these documents.
Also coming up, AU adopts President Akufo-Addo's proposal for scaling up mobile money interoperability. We'll discuss how that will improve Africa trade on the exchange. My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. And thanks for staying with us, everyone. First up, government is expecting some significant reduction in the country's total debt stock before the end of this year. This will be realized after Ghana signs debt restructuring agreement with external creditors before December this year. Here's more in the following report.
Ghana's total debt stock ending June 2024 reached 742 billion cedis. This, however, represents a significant jump compared to the country's debt situation for last year. This actually led to some questioning the impact of the domestic debt restructuring, as well as the current deal that government has secured with some of the external creditors on the debt situation. But government is insisting that it expects some significant reduction before the end of the year. This is because, at the time, it is expecting the agreement reached with these creditors to impact the total debt stock. Government sources say they are expecting more than 10 billion Ghana cedis drop in the debt stock before the end of this year. It is also projecting that the cedi will stabilize firmly against the dollar in the coming months. That should also impact on the final debt numbers ending December 2024. The Finance Ministry is of the firm belief that, based on the reforms being undertaken, that could help bring down the debt situation to a sustainable level by 2028.
Joins me on Zoom to discuss the story. Good afternoon to you. So how significantly are debts coming down if we start repaying debts to our creditors?
Hi, Daryl. Not sure. Can you repeat the question? I don't think you were very audible.
Yeah, so I was asking how significantly our debts are coming down if we start repaying debts to Eurobond holders.
Oh, okay. Okay, I get a question now. I think there was a bit about this in the media budget where we noted that discussions with the Eurobond holders, our external creditors, have yielded some results, and it was to the effect that a portion of the outstanding debt has been cancelled, whilst a portion relating to debt servicing has been deferred, so after the IMF program, which is somewhere towards the later part of 2026 or maybe early 2027. I'm not sure exactly what the timing will be. I mean, the effect of this really is that it slows down our debt accumulation, because if we were to make debt service commitments and if we were to make them on the original outstanding amount, that would be much bigger than if we have been forgiving a portion of these debts. Moreover, the payments have also been deferred to latter part of 2026 or immediately after 2026, all of which will work to slow down the accumulation of debt. But once we start paying, and your question relates to when we start paying, we still expect that us to be in a better position than we are currently. One, because there's a portion of the outstanding debt that has been forgiven or cancelled. So therefore, your debt service commitment would have to be on a lower base, if you like. But that is on assumption that this is an overly simplistic analysis, assuming that this is the only debt that we are going to deal with. In between time, government can contract additional debt that may add to what we have there already, And so we may still see, debt accumulation to some extent following the IMF program. We hope that regardless of what happens, once the IMF leaves us, we will stay fiscally prudent in terms of contracting additional debt. What we will, use that debt for will be something that is regenerative in terms of self-financing debt and also investing in capital expenditure that will significantly facilitate economic growth. Remember that the deficit situation that we are trying to solve, and we are trying to get to a more sustainable level, there are two things at play here. The deficit itself, which is the difference between our revenue and expenditure, and the GDP, which is the extent to which our economy grows. If our economic growth outpaces the deficit that we generate over time, we will eventually be able to, lower the deficit to GDP ratio over time and take it to a more sustainable level. So we can't look at only the fiscal side, which is the revenue and expenditure. We should also see how these debts and other inflows goes into, productive sectors to expand the economy and to keep the ratio at a more sustainable level going forward.
I want to talk next about the city's performance, because the performance of the local currency, it has an impact on reducing our debt numbers, and right now it's not looking too good. The central bank, we've heard from the governor, who said that the reason we are seeing this depreciation is as a result of sentiments and election-related concerns. How do we go about fixing the challenges with the city right now, seeing its impact on debt numbers? Some have suggested moral suasion. What do you think?
Well, yes, I mean, the thing with sentiments has always been with us, and it's not peculiar to us. I think it's a normal feature with import-dependent economies, because then you have a lot of businesses that are into imports, and they drive their discussions when it comes to FX. I mean, you can call it sentiments, but I mean, the business people will look at it as planning ahead. I mean, every business wants to be proactive in this kind of economy and tries to take advantageous position in terms of securing the FX and also minimizing the cost at which they secure it. And that is where these sentiments, come in. I need to buy products in December, shipping products in December. That's when I need to make that commitment or payment. But I think, and I've seen from decades of trends, right, that the cedi will depreciate at some point. I mean, there's too much information historically to suggest otherwise. So based on that information, I stack the dollars now, even though I don't need it now, in hope that by the time it depreciates further in December, I would have been in a better position, in terms of cost to get my products. All of it is to ensure that I don't get outpriced in the market. Because if I don't do it and my competitors do it, then, I'm going to get outpriced in the markets, and we are in a price sensitive market as well. So you can say, or you can bundle all of that into sentiments, but when it comes to business, this is how businesses plan. The first consideration is not morals, it's profit. What can I do to maximize my profits? That is what drives businesses. So if I can start some dollars now in an economy where the cedi is assured, based on historical trend, to depreciate, then that is exactly what I'll do. In this case, I don't think moral suasion will be, that significant, as a solution. It might do certain, particularly related to individuals that hold dollars to benefit from it. But when it comes to business, the profit consideration is strong. And if, the consideration is that if I'm not doing it, others will do it. And of course, I'll get outpriced out of the market. So I don't think moral suasion, will be that effective. I think that we should look more towards, a sustainable way of ensuring that there's constant inflows of dollars to shore up our reserves, at any material point in time, to absorb the demand shocks as and when they come. And the way we do that is to focus more on our import substitution policies. One, our export drive, growing our exports, as well as our industrialization agenda. The industrialization agenda goes hand in hand with our import substitution policy, because then if you whip up your industrialization, you create industries to then provide substitutes to the products that are imported. If they meet the quality and match the price of the foreign products, then you make progress in terms of them being, desirable substitutes in the market. And then you can retain, the hard-earned dollars that you would have gone to import these products. this is the only way. But we also acknowledge that these ways that I've suggested are not, that you won't see the results that much within the short term. You would have to be consistent in your approach over a prolonged time to be able to see a tangible results going forward. Okay, so there's the phase that you have to invest in these things. You have a certain gestation period, might run without any significant results for maybe 2-3 years, after which, if you have been consistent enough, then you begin to see some results. And that's what we must look to, right, in the medium to long term. As for these other short-termist approach of when we go to market and secure some inflows through loans like IMF, the World Bank support, and other cocoa board loans, they are exactly what it is, very short-termist, right? They come in, and within a cycle of maybe 2-3 months, they are drained out again, and we come back to the same pressure. They are very short-termist, they are not sustainable. Right. The sustainable way is to look at our import substitution policies and industrialization drive.
All right. I mean, we are
consistent and intentional about it.
We are just 5 months to the elections. Government is thinking about how to control its expenditure, make sure that it's not overspending during this season. And so I want you to take a listen to Abnor Sayasare, who is the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, who talks about an online platform that the government is rolling out to ensure that it doesn't spend beyond its means. Just take a listen to what she told us on PM Express Business Edition when my colleague George Yafi hosted her.
The completion of the negotiations on the debt restructuring, we know that some projects will start kicking in, but still, it will be within the framework that Parliament has voted for us.
Wouldn't there be a counterpart funding from government?
Whatever it is has been voted in the capital expenditure, and that is what we are saying, that we will strive to make sure it is within the framework that we have been given, the total appropriation of the 239 that we now say we're going to spend. And then finally, we have our goods and services, what we need for the ministries, departments, and agencies to run with. That one too, clearly, we are going to stay and live within our means. It is true that it's an election year, and government knew we were going to have an election, and everything that the Electoral Commission would need for it to carry out a successful election has already been taken care of in the budget. And aside all that, government is also putting in structural reforms. That is very, very important. Most of the time, we do not mention that, but the structural reforms are key. Having every dealings, every expenditure line item on the gift miss, that is very, very important, such that you don't spend monies that you don't have. So once a ministry has been given this allocation and it's on gift miss, you cannot go in there and load something that you do not have.
Has this been enforced always? Because if you go through the Auditor General's report, there have been instances where spending has been carried out outside the system. I stand to be corrected here.
Instances where spending, yes. I agree with you on instances where spending went beyond the gift miss, was especially when COVID arose. It was a new area altogether, a public emergency, where we thought doing things in a hurry, sort of, was a very critical part of reducing debt related to COVID. And so, yes, there were at times that we had to open an account outside the gift miss so that the bank with the banks, so that the banks could intervene faster as and when we needed to do that.
All right. So, Dennis, you had the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry there. We have a minute on this. Your thoughts? How effective would this be?
Well, I mean, I don't know how synchronized the give me system is, from end to end, right? From Ministry of Finance, where the funds will be released to pay for, if you like, contract works, let's say at the local authority where it's the delivery of the work is supervised. If it's that, synchronized seamlessly, then of course that will work. But that also might bring some concerns, especially around election time, where contractors have not been paid and you're having to deal with why are you not paying me because there's something not approved in the system and all that. If government is not going to fall to that pressure, then of course it will help in minimizing the expenditure. While we talk significantly about expenditure, I want government to also focus on revenue mobilization, because this whole thing is about the fiscal space that we need to provide. If you focus so much on the expenditure side, what you do is you're going to end up cutting down on, needed development. But if you also focus on whipping up revenue, then you can, have some space to spend on developmental projects, not deny the people the development they need. At the same time, have the leeway or the space to be able to do that without, going overboard in terms of your deficit. So, yeah, that's what I think. I think it will take some level of political will if the system is not that synchronized from end to end to implement that. But if they are able to implement it, then it will help.
I appreciate your time with us. Dennis Brown there, Senior Manager, Financial Advisory at Deloitte Ghana. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Darren.
On the marketplace, I appreciate it. Now, turning to some other stories, the chairman of the ECOWAS Regional Electricity Regulatory Authority, Laurent Rodrigue Tosso, says the newly designed regional framework for the electricity market aims to establish a more integrated and efficient energy sector across West Africa. According to Tosso, this will enhance access at an affordable price for all consumers across the region. He was speaking at the 9th Regional Electricity Regulatory Forum in Accra.
The ECOWAS Regional Electricity Regulatory Authority, ERERA, held its 9th Regional Electricity Regulatory Forum in Accra. The focus was on establishing a regional framework for the electricity market. ERERA Chairman Laurent Rodrigue Tosso spoke about the efforts to establish the regional electricity sector.
Framework to parts of the electricity market. For example, if you want to be connected to the grid, you should be aware about all the content of these documents. And it is also the same if you are, for example, an IPP and you want to buy and sell electricity in the region. So it is a very important and critical document to establish and all the rules functioning for the electricity market. So we are here to study this document, share with all the stakeholders, and be sure that it's online and aligned with all the process of the treaty, who is signed within the country member in ECOWAS.
On reducing tariffs, Emmanuel Mana, Director General of the Sierra Leone Electricity and Water Regulation Commission, expressed optimism about the new regulations.
Again, tariffs are high because the numbers have not been too scientific. What ERA is doing is to make sure they give national regulators the methodology that will work. And by so doing that, it becomes scientific, becomes very analytical. By so doing, we move away guesswork, so much so that when you quench the numbers, they can come down. Because tariffs are always based on cost. It's those costs that we have to make sure we pen them down to the point where it becomes efficient.
Dr. Ishmael Aka, the Executive Secretary of the PURC, dismissed claims of overregulation of the sector.
We have consumers on one hand, we have the producers. There's also the need to introduce private capital into the sector since government cannot do it all. Power generation also has what we call externalities, so there may be environmental concerns and other things. Due to all these three reasons, there should be a regulator that sits between the utilities, the customer, that gives confidence to investors that when you invest your money, you get your returns, and that is also able to deal with the issue of externalities, environmental concerns, pollution, and others. So there's no over-regulation. What regulators should not do will be to micromanage. But regulators are to set the guidelines, the rules and other things which the operators operate within. And I think that is what ERERA wants to do.
The forum themed Electricity Trade Security in the ECOWAS region, the interplay between national policies and free market principles was attended by regulators, operators and government representatives from ECOWAS countries.
You're watching The Marketplace. Now, the African Union has endorsed President Akufo-Addo's vision for a continent-wide financial institution and has taken steps to accelerate mobile money interoperability across Africa. The decisions were made during the AU Media Coordination Meeting in Accra, where President Akufo-Addo emphasized the need to enhance financial inclusion for the most vulnerable populations. Isaac Hubert Arthur is Executive Director for the Africa Center for International Trade and Development. He joins us for the exchange this afternoon. Great to speak with you, Isaac. What are your thoughts on the adoption of mobile money for trade here in Africa, as proposed by the president and adopted by the AU?
Thank you very much, Darrell, and then also good afternoon to your kind listeners and viewers across Ghana and the continent. I think for me, it's a step in the right direction with what has just been adopted, by the African Union. Once we focus on increasing trade or even accelerating the implementation of the AfCFTA, it's very important to get the necessary, system structures, even the tools to enable trade to happen easily and faster, across the continent. So for such an adoption, for me, I think is the right step. It's going to help increase intra-African trade and then also even promote, the African economic integration, which is very important, because transaction costs across the continent, is very high. Paying for goods and services, you are in Ghana, you want to procure something from South Africa or maybe from, let's say even Tanzania, it's very difficult making payment, and yes, the banks exist, and it's not everybody who has the capacity to even operate a bank account. I mean, most of the SMEs, may not even have bank accounts to be able to pay for transactions across the continent. So making it easier, simple, seamless for mobile money transfers, across networks, across, the borders, is for me, it's the best way to go. It's going to help boost a lot of intra-Africa trade among especially the SMEs, who are more even on this continent. So for me, I'm very excited about this new development.
Well, yes, this is targeted towards small businesses, SMEs. I want to bring up PAPS because it was also supposed to be a common payment platform, or it is a common payment platform. What's the progress with that?
Yeah, PAPS is gradually, taking, let's say, full operational status. A lot of banks, across the countries are rolling on to PAPS, and it's also helping. But look, PAPS, let's be very realistic. Even though PAPS is trying to make it feasible, easy for SMEs also to participate in the whole payment, system. Not every SMEs, the micro, small enterprises especially. How many of them will operate even bank accounts with some of these big banks to be able to do these transactions? And it's not for free. It's expensive. It's not easy for small business operator, somebody who's manufacturing shoes, let's say in Ghana or in Togo, to be able to, open such a bank account and accumulate a certain level of savings to be able to pay for transactions. It's easier for them to operate on mobile money transfers, because it's simple, it's faster. Look at the queues at the banks. So for me, I think it's also a call to the banking system to also make it easier, simple for SMEs and all businesses to be able to do business with them. You go to the banks, you have to join long queues, sometimes you spend more than an hour at the bank. It's not really helping. So if SMEs will find it very easy to sit in the comfort of their shops, of their workplaces, to just send money on their mobile networks to pay for transactions, I think for me, that is the easy way to go. Even in Ghana, lots of our population are heavily on mobile money. How many people have bank accounts these days? So I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, my final question, like you point out, mobile money is popular here in Ghana, in Kenya. I don't know about other African countries. So what are the barriers, do you think? Because this borders on mobile technology, right? What are the barriers that you anticipate there would be, and how do we go around that in trying to sort of implement this?
There are different levels to this, challenge. Obviously, it's not every African country that has this high internet speed. Not alone to talk about even to use the mobile networks to pay for transactions. I've traveled across Africa, and there are some countries you get there, you cannot even communicate on WhatsApp, or you can't use internet to do anything because the network is so poor. It's not stable, you know, and even some countries access to even internet is also a major problem, you know. So there's the access to internet, there's also stability, or you know, the speed of the networks.
Right.
It's also another challenge. And then also education. Not many, if you go to other countries, there are some rural areas, you know, who are not really educated,
okay,
you know, about how to operate even the mobile money transactions or using apps to work on all of that. So it's going to need a lot of education to be able to do that. And I think internet infrastructure is also going to be a key. A lot of the telcos will have to up their game in this regard.
Happy to speak with you this afternoon. God knows we've been trying so many times to get you on the program. Isaac Hubert Arthur, Executive Director, Asintad. Appreciate your time with us this afternoon on the marketplace. And that's our program, everyone. There is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Rise on oil import bill poses depreciation pressures on cedi, $1 going for 15 cedis, 88 pesos. Plus, containing sentiment-driven cedi depreciation, very challenging, according to the Bank of Ghana governor. myjoyonline.com/business. That's our program. We'll be back same time tomorrow.